Welcome back, everyone. It is now another Mondays with Micah. I am so excited to have my first doctor on the show. Meet Becky Babb. I feel like some of you already know her, and she may even be your healthcare provider. I started reaching out to the different people that came to my mind on this wellness series here in September, and she came popping into my mind pretty quickly. She is not my healthcare provider at this present time, but I remember last
January.
Okay, January. Winter is blurring along. She had this huge event at the Workforce Development Center, and I planned to go and then had a conflict of interest. And I heard so many great things about it, and part of this functional medicine terminology that is not traditional medicine. And
Correct.
so I'm going to kind of hand it over to Becky to kind of educate us on what she's offering in her practice. What are some preventative care things that she has learned that maybe something that me in my 40s could be a help, 50s, 60s, 70s, probably sooner actually. And so I am just going to say that something that I have learned over the last 8 years of walking through grief is that an informed patient is an empowered patient. And there is an old mentality that says, I'd rather not know.
Exactly.
And I am here to tell you that not knowing may prolong the stress of knowing sometimes, but the prognosis is usually worse when you delay investigating some concerns. And a little phrase that I started saying this year is, when in doubt, get checked out. When in doubt. And a couple of other things that I just want to bring up in the intuitive part of our body is that when things are out of order and there's dis-ease, our body is here to respond and to let us know. And I think that the Western mentality of medicine care is very symptom-based, and it is kind of a Band-Aid program. We go in wanting the pain to go away, and there's prescriptions now to potentially mask the pain. And it's really a neurological prescription, y'all. We think it's actually, and we haven't had a conversation, so what I'm saying, she's never heard me say before. So I'm giving a little precursor. I have no idea where she's going to go with it, but I have a feeling she's going to springboard on a lot of things I'm touching on, that the prescriptions that we thought were actually helping the problem are really a neurological response. It's actually telling our brain to stop thinking things more than our body to start healing things. Now, I'm not saying every prescription does that, but I am saying that we're not getting to the root of the problem. And the roots are where the nourishment has to go to. Not the surface part of our spot, not the surface part, not even the middle core of us. We have to get to the root issues. And I have to tell you that when grief found me at 36 years old, it initially turned into muscle tension. And we talked about that this past week at Cathara, that I started getting massages on a regular basis to handle the pain management of this new weight of position of what you call a widow. And a early widow, a young widow at that, with young children. That manifested over time into a inflammation problem. That inflammation started to affect my gut. I have since learned, y'all, that grief and gut, the gut and mind, all are related, y'all. They are, and we want them to be friends. We don't want them to be enemies. We want them to work together. And in 2017, after my husband passed, we did a lot of worship in our church. And for the first time in my life, I found myself in the EMT doctor's office because something was going wrong with my throat. And they found vocal nodules on both my vocal cords. Didn't even know it was a thing, but I basically overused my voice. And they said this is very common, singers and teachers, preachers. I didn't know that I needed to condition vocal cords because I've never evidently used them that deeply, that long, that intense before. And it took a few years. I had to go on vocal rest. And why does this matter? I finally broke bad, y'all, and got a vocal coach because I started writing music. And the first session that we had, she said, we're going to work on some breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. And when we started to do the breathing exercises, I was overcome with emotion I was not expecting to have. And that emotion, this thought popped in my head and it said, thank you for taking care of me. And I was undone. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And why am I bringing that up here today? That I made a conscious choice and an investment in myself in an area of my body that had been hurting, as minimal as it may seem to be the vocal cord. And this was not right away. And when I did that, I'm telling you, something happened in my body where trust came online. My body realized that I cared enough to do something about it. And I have been in the upward spiral of repair and care since then. I was not expecting that to happen to me that day. So I'm letting you know here that there's an emotional component. There's a physiological component, there's a physical component, and then there is action that we have to take. And so I hope that gives you a little bit into some history within myself. And so I'm going to pass it over to Becky, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Micah, for having me. I'm grateful for this opportunity today. For those of you guys that don't know me, Micah introduced me. I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been in healthcare for about 20 plus years now. But my journey, you were talking about your journey. My journey with really digging deep to determine what was going on at the core. Sometimes it takes a travesty to get us in gear to try to figure out what the problem is and where things are stemming from. A year and a half ago, I had a significant injury, had a huge foot and hip surgery, was down and out, really just depressed, lost, trying to find my way, going through the day of managing patient after patient, trying to be a motivator for them while I was in my recovery for my own physical ailments. And I knew there had to be more. I knew there had to be more than what I was doing every day, writing prescriptions, ordering a plethora of tests. I knew it was more. So I started really researching and digging. I knew that God designed our bodies to know exactly, innately what to do. I've always known that. But I was not as good at doing what my body needed and giving it the right things, so to speak. And I thought, how am I going to educate my patients with their best interests in mind if I'm not even doing things the right way for myself? So that started my journey. I started researching so many things, and you can go down so many rabbit holes, especially online, social media, all those things. And knowing, the legitimate sources of things to get your information from is really important. But I found out this wonderful world of supplementation, how our gut microbiome influences every key aspect in our entire body. And I was really so hyper-focused on that. And I did more and more research, and I was trying to figure out the most cost-effective, the fastest way to revive my own health so that I could be a better provider for my patients, as well as for my family and friends. So I did lots of education as far as the GI system, the gut microbiome, and I really wanted to repair my microbiome. And I looked around online, and You know, there were folks charging upwards from $5,000 to $10,000, and it's no way in the world I could afford that.
Right.
So I went through all of the educational process myself, became a certified GI map specialist, and slowly but surely developed my own protocols and revamped my own health. And since that was, as you said, the springboard that launched me into really starting to become very aware of our healthcare system, the issues with our healthcare system, and trying to determine my own way to fix things where I could fix things.
Right.
The biggest yield for the community. And so what I did is I started taking that and applying it to what I do on the daily basis with my patients in the office. So no longer do we say, okay, there's a medicine for this, a medicine for this, let's do this medicine. And mind you, I am not telling anyone to stop their
That's
medicines. Right. I am not saying medications are bad, because there's a time and a place. However, and once again, I'm not giving medical advice to anyone. Please reach out to your healthcare provider with any questions and concerns about anything we discussed today. But there are some key foundational things that if we don't work to fix, not a pill, not a, fad diet, a fad cleanse, none of those things are going to work unless we focus on foundation. So that's my main thing today I wanted to talk about, because often as providers, caregivers, moms, busy professionals, we take care of everyone else and not ourselves. And I think that is a big driving force as to what causes a lot of the chronic disease that we have. We're so focused on rush, and take care of everyone else, and we're not able to slow down and really look at the big picture. So I try to advocate for my patients with the key foundational aspects. And what those are, Micah, the ones that I would like to broach upon today are obviously sunlight. We need sunshine. God made the sunshine, and I'm not saying go outside, with no sunblock in 100-degree weather. I'm saying let's have some morning sun. Sit by the window when you're doing your morning devotional or having your cup of coffee. That sunshine is super important. It's there for a reason. The other is sleep. The greater majority of us, I think we struggle with good sleep patterns. And I know that I did. I would check emails in bed, answering text messages, have the TV on in the background, and then wonder why I'm only getting, 4 hours of sleep at night. And long gone are the days of priding ourselves on being able to run off of 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep. It's terrible for your body. It's terrible for your mind. Sleep is super important for your body to recharge and cleanse all of the junk and the waste out that it doesn't
From the
need.
head to the toe.
You got it. And 8 hours of sleep. When I tell my patients you need to have 8 hours of good restful sleep, they laugh at me. And I'm very realistic, and my patients will attest to this. Very realistic and very practical. So I know that you'll have to start somewhere. Not everyone's going to jump right into bed with all the electronics off and go right into a wonderful deep REM sleep for 8 hours. That's not going to happen. But just starting, you have to have a starting point. And whether that means, preparing for your bedtime routine by not watching TV, 30 to 45 minutes before getting into bed, have some Bible reading or reading of, a book of interest for yourself, just to settle your mind and your heart. And then crawl into bed and work to get rest. It is super important. The other key is something that we are really fixated on: nutrition. I do not like the word diet. I do not like, us trying to... Some days I think that we get a little more focused on all of the fads and things that are on TikTok, and I'm not knocking TikTok either, but I think we just get so focused on all the fads that are jumping out at us continuously throughout the day. Let's get back to basics, guys. Let's get back to whole foods, the things that the good Lord created. Meats, fruits, vegetables. Let's try to get back to cooking at home. Once again, I know this is not an easy thing. You have to start very basic. And I'll also broach on the fact, for those that live alone, be it, for many reasons, widows, widowers, empty nesters, bachelors, those types of things, there are still ways that you can make cooking somewhat enjoyable, practical, and cost effective. We have to get back to the root of that, because that's where it's at. That's going to start, along with the sunshine and good quality sleep. Nutrition is key in calming down that inflammation and helping us feel well throughout the day. It helps with our train of thought, our brain function. It also helps with your gut and the rest of your body. Obviously, it's the body, everything's connected, head to toe. Everything's connected. One thing does not work well if another is off. And so, I would highly encourage, let's try to work beyond the fast foods. I know we're in a busy, stage of the game where everyone's rushing here and there and trying to survive, and I get it. But try to focus on at least having one meal a day, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Have that be a source of whole foods. And once again, these are just very basic. I could talk all day about it.
Of course.
I'm so passionate about it because I see the difference that good quality food makes.
I will elaborate. I want to pull out some things that she said. One, back to the sunlight. I have found in my own life, and I am not fully disciplined exactly. So that is the part of this where the want to and the doing are not quite always the same level. But when she's talking about this sunlight, I'm going to pull in the word mitochondria here.
There you go.
Because there is something physically that happens, y'all. When at first alarm, we get up and we get out. And I'm saying 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm not saying 3 miles here. I'm saying the activation of getting up and getting out for those who can. And I am intentional in the walk to, some people call it habit stacking. I've heard this. And so I do my Bible reading audibly right now. And so I'm having that read to me while I'm taking my walk. And I intentionally look at the sun not long, okay? But there is something that happens internally to kind of wake us up, this circadian rhythm inside of us. So this sleep thing has to do with our circadian rhythm. Why is it hard for men or people that are on shift work? Because it's affecting their circadian rhythm week by week, and they never really can get into a rhythm because they keep knocking out of that. Can you speak into that at all?
Oh yeah, I definitely can. And mitochondria, that's definitely the hot topic now in the science and literature. Just as you were saying, that circadian rhythm, and I do see this issue with quite a few of my shift work patients. Goodness, I wish that we could either have strictly day shift folks, night shift folks. My husband goes through the same issue because he works, day shift and night shift. So, I definitely find that those folks have to really go above and beyond to try their best to help with other areas, whereas maybe the sleep is a little more lacking and deficient, trying to work on the other things, because you're exactly correct. And you brought up the point that, with the sunlight, that's why I was saying we need sunlight, especially that first morning sun, because it sparks inside of your body and it lets the body know, hey, it's time to get up.
That's right.
It's time to get rolling, and it helps with that circadian rhythm. It also will help you at night, because if you start with the morning sun, your body knows what's going on, follows throughout the day, and then you're able to get more effective rest in the evening.
And so even back to, I've read this as well, that if your body to have a consistent bedtime time, so whether that's 11, 10, whatever it is, that your body starts to trust you that you're going to not push yourself past this point. And the more we push past, the more the body starts to have to create alarms because it's overworking for too many days or decades, okay?
Yeah.
And our window of tolerance, let's bring this in, let's say foods that we used to eat in our youth are bothering us in our adulthood because our tolerance is getting smaller and smaller. Where, hey, I used to eat the hot fries, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Hot fries was the first clue that my throat was messed up, because they used to not bother me. And if I had one hot fry, I literally had a raw throat for months. And I said, something's wrong. And it has started to affect my range of singing. And as a worship leader, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I said, something's not right. Well, that intuition is a clue. And the beauty of being able to go to Dr. Becky is that she is researching how to help. And if she doesn't know, she will direct you to another category in the body to get the help. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about inflammation, and I'm not going to say it's the cause. But going into our fall, winter season, over a few years of indigestion, and then I find out I have a hiatal hernia, and, start pulling back on the more acidic foods and the more spicy foods and fried foods. All the fun stuff, y'all. Then I'm like, what's the point of living? Okay. But I will tell you that once you get things under control, there is those cheat days that your body can handle. But every single day having a cheat day, our body is not built for it. And not only is the fried food a problem, y'all, I don't want to really go off on this tangent, but I've had so many friends go to Europe, and I hope to be one of the people to tell the story, but they go to Europe and they say, I have no gluten problems there. I have no gluten problems, and I can eat all the bread I want over there, because there is fake ingredients with no nutrients, and now there's this other stuff, bioengineered ingredients that are being added to our food. It is setting us up for failure, y'all. It is creating inflammation. All the seed oils are inflammatory, and we're using them on a regular basis.
Yeah, and so that's a good point. That's something I definitely talked about and linked at my conference in January. So that's a big passion of mine. So as you were mentioning, very good point about things in your youth that didn't really bother you, that are bothering you in adulthood. One, yes, it's because of overtime and your body has inflammation and is less tolerant. But something else that I really want to address that a lot of people still do not know is that all of the processed foods that are on the shelf in the grocery store, the chemicals that are in those, the body doesn't recognize those. Those are chemicals that are developed by chemists that are paid for the food industry to develop foods to make us crave them more. It's called hyperpalatable. And so, you would think that this would be against the law, because we know if they're putting chemicals in the food that make us want to eat it more and more and more, it leads to obesity and chronic disease. So what I try to tell my patients, once we talk about that morning sunshine, we talk about the sleep, and you gave some really great tips about a sleep regimen and sleep hygiene. Food and nutrition is the key, because if you're putting these things into your body, once again, let's go back. God made the body to know exactly what to do. We just have to give it the right things. When you start putting the processed foods into your body with these chemicals that are made in the lab, the body does not know what to do with it. And the first thing that it does is it responds in a defensive way, hence the inflammation. The body starts to become inflamed, irritated. We're seeing a rise in our autoimmune diseases, chronic disease, anxiety, depression, ADHD. I could go on for days about this, but that is the key driving force of what is leading to all the chronic disease, heart disease, diabetes, all of those things. Obesity is the inflammatory response that your body is eliciting. And eventually, it works for a while without severe ramifications. But what I see every day in my daily practice is the luck runs out, as we say. Eventually, diseases start to come a knocking. And I want to really work to prevent that with my patients, my friends, my family, my community, which is why I'm so grateful you allow me to speak today.
And I am one of these people, y'all. Okay, so it has created this curiosity to learn. And 2 years ago, I was diagnosed, and I'm bringing this up more because it took a crisis of cancer, of a tumor, it shouldn't have to come to that. It should not, and it is so complex. And what I can say about cancer is that it is not one thing that gets you there. It is literally, I believe, the perfect storm for too long of a lot of these areas. And so I was going to bring this up about our immune system, and also something else I'm going to bring a term into it is, so she started talking about this high pace. As a single parent, I cannot run for two people. And no one wants to fail. No one, so I did kind of go into let's go into a more psychiatrist term, probably, of a manic state. So survival mode gets revved up, okay? And there's this cortisol that starts to pump us to protect and to fight against the crisis. I really didn't have anything to fight against when my husband passed, except every day. The everyday became a fight to survive. And if you're in a state of survival, that has to do with our nervous system. And until I went through radiation, did I understand the term parasympathetic state. So it's something we actually can get out of, y'all. And I didn't know until I needed to know, or needed the help, that our body cannot really absorb all the nutrients or repair in a survival state. We need to get calm enough in a state of rest, which is the sleeping mode actually, but we have to learn how to carry that without feeling fatigued during the day. And we wonder why we're fatigued, but we're not really doing the things we've already talked about. So we take the extra placebos to push through, and there is a limit to what we can do here. And I am passionate as well to say we can do a better job. It feels like discipline, y'all, but I'm telling you, the wealth of health is worth investing in. Our health is the highest form of wealth that we have. And if we're chasing monetary wealth, or we're chasing, you insert the word, without our health, we won't get there. And it won't be worth it. And I have to really be dedicated to this as a single parent, because the reality of the kids not having anybody else to fall back on is real and faced every single day. So I don't have the luxury to wait anymore. And alarms were going off by the year. And I really feel like there wasn't anything I could do, to be honest, per se, because it was basically a snowball. And it was faster than I could really keep up with. And so I don't know what you may want to share about inflammation and our immune system basically not being able to hold, and you're seeing some cancer find itself, but there's clues.
There are. So you're exactly correct. So inflammation is the key driver to a lot of our chronic disease that we see now. We'll talk about the kiddos. So kids are being diagnosed now with diseases that were never heard of in kids, 20, 30 years ago. So many autoimmune diseases are popping up. We all have someone that either presently has cancer, has had cancer, has died from cancer. These are all the body's responses to that chronic inflammation, be it environmental, not enough rest, the toxins in our food system. we're surrounded by it. And as you said, we have to fix what we can fix so that our body can defend itself against the other things that we cannot control. And, what I've seen so many, standard mold for different patients of, here comes the high blood pressure, the obesity. Now we have diabetes. Oh, look, we have, kidney disease. Now we've got colon cancer. It's just a snowball effect. And what I really try to encourage my patients to be mindful of is, once again, I keep going back to the foundational pillars, but that's where we really need to start. That morning sunlight, good adequate sleep, 7 to 8 hours at night, adequate nutrition. Do your absolute best to be mindful of the whole foods. I'm not saying you have to be gourmet. I'm not saying you have to go to the grocery store and spend, $200 on things that are going to sit in the fridge and go bad. But I'm saying we have to start somewhere.
Right.
And the other thing, too, that goes along to play with the autoimmune and inflammatory processes are moving our bodies.
Thank you.
Moving our bodies. And, long gone are the days, Micah, of having to pay, exuberant amounts in the gym, going and sweating and working out for 2 hours a day.
Yep.
We know that's not even beneficial,
No.
guys. It's not.
It's killing our joints.
It is. It is. I can attest to that. I would say just start somewhere. Start with 3 brisk 15-minute walks per week. Start there. Start walking with a friend. If you live in an area that is not safe or conducive for walking, I have several patients that go to Lowe's and they walk. It's a large facility, lots of room and space. It's safe. You can do it by yourself. Now, if you enjoy home improvement projects, that might not be the safest place to go to walk. But, you have to start somewhere. Yeah. And as we grow older, some of us older than others, we want to start lifting heavy things. We want to start doing some weight-bearing exercises. Guys, it does not have to be anything major or super costly.
That's right.
You can walk for free. You can do some body weight squats. So many people have access now to social media. Let's use TikTok and Instagram and Facebook for some good things. Yeah. Let's use those things. There are several trainers on there that offer great snippets and tips. So I really encourage that. And then prevention. So prevention is the other big key to this. Get your preventative screenings. If you do not have a primary care provider, please get one. We have several great providers in our area. Please reach out. You need to be established with someone, not to get put on a plethora of medications if you don't need it. A lot of people think that. They think as soon as they walk in the doctor's office, they're going to get hammered with a ton of expensive tests and pill after pill.
For
after
what?
pill. Yeah, exactly. So I would encourage you to become established, get the preventative screenings that are designed for a reason. And then for those of you guys that are already established with a primary care provider, have a very serious conversation with them. Take your medications with you to your doctor's appointment and say, hey, which one of these could I possibly work to get off of? Help me try to get off of these medications safely. And once again, do not stop anything abruptly without talking with them. But that's what we're here for, guys. We're not just here to take the prescription pad and put you on yet something else that you can't afford that comes with 1,000 side effects. We're here to help with these foundational things. And I think if we could grow together as a community and advocate for these things together, Micah, I think we would find a lot happier society, healthier society, one that's not ridden with hospitalizations and doctor's visits and bills, that you can never afford to pay.
We live in an agricultural area, and really, to be honest, we talked about this back in May when I met with the food bank to say that we're in a food desert, okay? It's hard to hear that. It's hard to hear it, but the food bank has so much come in to supplement the food shortage or the food options, and also our farmers market. We have great fresh produce, y'all, and my kids complain to me still when we get things, and I'm not knocking Walmart. I'm thankful that we have a Walmart. But the strawberries that we pick locally have a shelf life that is triple what it is when we get things imported that are delivered to Walmart. And why do they not last as long? Because there's preservatives pumped in our foods, y'all. And these preservatives are creating growth early. Our adolescent kids are maturing sooner than they're supposed to, developing sooner than they're supposed to, and it is really based on some growth hormones and our dairy products, and more that's getting uncovered of what's actually in these ingredients.
Yeah.
And that old thing of check the box, and the less ingredients, the more pure the product is. This is not hard to do. It is change of habits. There's habit changing that has to happen. And I'm telling you, you can feel a difference. It is an instant difference for me when I've been to Taco Bell versus when I cook the tacos at home with organic meat. And we have good meat here. River Road Farms also has fresh beef. That's grass-fed right here. So to say we really don't, and then the seafood, I'm pulling out all the Grayson and Emma's gets fresh seafood. Wonderful we get the salmon there. The frozen salmon does not hit the same as the fresh salmon ever. And it's not expensive, y'all. I mean, literally we're paying double that for one portion at the restaurant. And it was kind of after COVID, or during COVID actually, I used to have a niece that lived with me, and I said, man, we can't even go anywhere. So we subscribed to a meal delivery service called HelloFresh. And it taught us a lot about mixing certain foods. It gave you what you needed. It delivered 3 meals. Is it as cost effective for larger families? No. But for smaller families, it takes the headache of figuring out what you're going to cook that week, going to the grocery store and buying all the stuff. They have simplified it for you. It ships straight to your house. It is healthy. It is portion controlled. And that is another option that I'm just going to bring up here today.
Yep. And you said it, taking the guesswork out of, what am I going to cook tonight? I think we've all struggled with that. Yeah. The kids are tired of this, or, we don't want to have this. It goes bad, all the things. And something else that I hear a lot is it's too expensive to be healthy. Wow. So that's such a loaded statement. It's not too expensive to be healthy. What's too expensive is when you are diagnosed with hypertension, diabetes, kidney disease, and you're on 6 to 8 different medications that are exceeding your allotted amount from the insurance companies. That's too expensive. And I'm very realistic and practical. Everyone is in a completely different economic situation. I get it. I'm realistic on that. But there are ways, if you put forth the effort, to find things that are cost effective, that are healthy for you and your family. The thought of we pay now or we pay later. It is so true.
I'm telling you, y'all.
It's so true.
And the paying later is affecting our quality of life. So it's not just the financial investment is giving you back days to your life and the quality of days to your life. When you're no longer mobile, there's a loss of independence. There's a loss of how you can play with your grandchildren. There's a loss of being able to travel. There's 14 other steps. The idea of even doing that is now too cumbersome. So it's the cost really is huge, and you're paying for it on the front end or the back end. Is basically what I've been told is another phrase. Exactly. But when you pay it on the back end, you're not in the health that you are on the front end. And I'm just encouraging y'all today that it's not worth it. And there's something in the core values here at the Widow Walk. We talk about education. We talk about expression. How do we express grief? What are the the everyday things. And then what happens when you start to make some changes? There's pivots that we have in our life. And some of it is through crisis. Some of it is because you saw a crisis of a friend and you said, you know what? I've been putting some things off and I'm actually going to go look at it. And it could have saved your life. Yeah. And sometimes you get in a car accident and due to them scanning you to make sure you're well, you find something. Yeah. That's God's gift and grace that you caught it then. And so there's circumstances that happen out of our control, as she said, and I feel like it's for our good. And I want to use the phrase that cancer saved my life. Like, I literally want to say that and speak it over my own body to say that you can heal, that we have the capacity to regenerate, rejuvenate, repair, restore things. And if you're a believer in Christ, even more resource and spiritual rejuvenation when you recite scripture over you to say, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And when that light bulb goes off, which I'll call the head to the heart connection, something starts to physically happen in your body. And that is where the calm and the stillness are involved. Do you talk to your patients any about tea, herbal teas as a benefit?
Oh, yeah. So there are several different types of herbal teas and different herbal supplements as well that are beneficial for the gut especially. So, you know, definitely green teas. They help with detoxification. You know, I'm all for good, high quality organic teas, and guys, they're not super expensive. People hear organic and start to panic, but you can use those too just in your calming rituals, or you can also use those in your daily morning rituals as well. So yes, that's a good point, especially that's something that I do in my evening time for my sleep hygiene to get settled. I practice mindfulness. And I'll read from my Bible again in the evening just to kind of settle myself down as a calming down time to get ready for bed, and having a nice, cup of peppermint tea, chamomile tea. But we could talk for days and days about the different types of teas and supplements that really help to repair and regenerate in the body. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for that.
So again, there's another inexpensive, and also in the morning, that walk starts to wake up your body, to wake up your metabolism. And a hot tea, not spicy, but something warm that you drink in the morning before or after you've taken your walk will help your digestive tract get into action. And so if some of you are dealing with some constipation issues, the gut kind of affects
that affects everything. The gut regulates everything. Our mood, our skin, our brain, our cognition, every single thing, our gut microbiome. There's lots of great data now. Anybody can go online now and read about the gut microbiome. But to your point, everything stems from the gut. I know I'm kind of jumping around here, going from different things, but my primary focus with my wellness business outside of my family practice office is it's gut centered, and getting that gut, squared away, healing the gut, because that controls everything.
And look, I've heard it said with grief that I felt punched in the gut. Okay, so this language, these phrases that we say actually mean something. They're not trite phrases. Yes. Even though you're like, man, I felt punched in the gut. But I specifically asked widows after loss, where did you feel it? Now, for me personally, it hit my chest. It felt like steel-toed boots sitting on my chest for like a year and a half. And so you wonder about breathing. And so I realized that this shallow breathing that became a grief response was not allowing me to take deep breaths. Well, the less oxygen we get in our bloodstream affects us.
Oh, yeah.
I was suffocating my diaphragm it took years for me to feel like I could even open my chest. So I had never heard of it, y'all. This is the part of this, is that I had to physically go through some things to have the language to then be able to ask more questions and ask other people, did this happen to you? To start connecting some dots to see that there is some consistency in the aftermath of loss. And for those who have had to be caretakers, then even more so, because I find that the widow took care of everyone else, and then all of a sudden find out they didn't even know how bad they needed their knee replacement because they couldn't focus on it. And so even though there was pain going on in their own body, they pushed it to the side, and their recovery time took longer because the extent of the condition was worsened. And I am not harping on that to say she made the wrong choice. That is not why I'm bringing this up, or to put any damper on people's choice. What I am sharing that for is that is so typically the story. And I have to continue to tell the widow, especially in the first year, choosing yourself is not selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
It is not selfish to choose in on your health, your mental health, your physical health for your family. It's not just for you, y'all. It's for your family. So you're here for your family. You're here to go to the soccer games and the basketball games. You're here to be there for the Christmas cantata. We want you here.
Yeah.
But we can't do it for you. We can't take the supplements for you.
Yep.
And so we have lost some loved ones.
Yep.
And it feels like sometimes too soon.
Oh, absolutely.
And sometimes they were preventable situations that basically kind of got out of hand.
Yeah, for various reasons. You're exactly right. And what you were just speaking upon brings me to my last foundational pillar, if you will, for wellness and being the best that you can be overall, is a sense of community. So, the good Lord did not design us to be by ourselves here on this earth. We need friends. We need, our relatives, our families. We need all of those people. And I would think that for some of the widows, definitely shutting people out would and I can't speak from experience, but I could see how I've walked that walk with some of my patients, and I see it, and just trying to really advocate, hey, sense of community and having that connection with others on earth, be it whether it be at your church or your neighbor, or some of the other parents at the different kids functions, all of those things. That's just as important as any supplement, medication, test, anything. So that is definitely a biggie.
Well, Becky, this has been a lot here today, but I could go on for another hour. We won't do that here today. If you want to hear more conversations like that, we need you to comment below. We need you to share this video so that more engagement, more conversations can continue to be had. Because this is scratching the surface of all of these different topics. But I want to live a life of thriving. I want thriving for you. And it's worth pursuing. As she said, God built our body to heal itself. But we can actually work against it sometimes. And unbeknownst to us, okay, we're not talking about intentional disrepair. We're talking about just not knowing better and eating the way we always ate, never had a problem, and then whoop. And so it seems that way. But ultimately, what I have learned is that there was a progression towards. It's not one day you're perfect and one day you're in disease. There is a progression that for most they ignored, or for unfortunately didn't get to the right doctors and got sometimes pushed aside, or they gave a quick diagnosis that wasn't correct. There's all sorts of different stories here. We don't have time to get into how, why, what, when. And I know there's some of you who fear doctors. You don't get what you paid for. Let's put it like that. I've heard it.
Yeah. Oh, I hear it. I hear it.
Why are we coming? What do you do anyway?
Yeah.
And so there's still a lack of understanding or respect sometimes for what they do or what you think. There's a stigma. Let's just say that about our type of care. And in this new widows community that I'm in, I'm telling people, what do you expect out of a widow?
Wow. What I would expect out of a widow? You're asking me that question?
Do people expect much out of a widow? Is a question I'm asking people.
Well, so I would imagine that people expect widows just to turn the cheek and just go on with life. You know, that's not my personal thought,
Yes.
but I think that's just
Common.
a very common perception that they're, you know, either get on with it, get over it, get on with life, or on the flip side, you know, you're not entitled to get out and be happy and live your life. So those are two things that I have heard from my patients that have walked that walk.
Neither one are good, y'all. Okay?
No.
Neither one is putting us in that thriving state of life and lifestyle of really choosing in for the win, I like to say. And choosing in, this Widow Walk resource is about walking out the life after death story.
Yeah.
You have a new start because I believe you have a new finish. And it is hard to accept that new start because a chapter closed, and sometimes it closed pretty quickly where there was not the time to prepare. And our body gets hit. And that hit, I am telling you, is physical, not just emotional. And until I became a widow, I had no grasp that it was more than emotional walking through loss. I had never heard it.
Yeah.
Never heard it.
Yeah.
I had never heard it. And then you're like, what?
Yeah.
And this is why this platform is here, is because I do not think that there is enough understanding, conversation, awareness, advocacy. And so the buck stops. I said, enough's enough, Dr. Becky. Enough's enough. Like, we are a group of people at all ages, unfortunately, especially post-COVID. There was so, earlier losses, a portion of time where there was a lot more losses and of all ages. And so this is a growing community across our country. And God only knows where this platform is going to grow to. But we're starting right where we're planted. So please get in touch with Becky if you have any of these chronic concerns that we don't want to say the word chronic, okay? We want there to be a concern. Once it's chronic, it's really not going anywhere. And I believe that her practice is to help you get out of a chronic problem. And the longer you've been in that, the longer it takes to recover from it.
It does, and the harder it is to transition out of it. So I would definitely say, have a heart-to-heart conversation with your providers, guys. If you don't have a provider, please get one. As I said, we have several great providers in our community. And then also, as far as the gut health and wellness, I offer expertise on that to help with as well. But it's very important. The way that I see things is, I'm not a dictator with my patients. I work with them. We're a team. We're a team in this. We have the same goals. We should have the same goals. And it's about the best lifespan, the best quality lifespan. Not how long you're here, but the actual best lifespan and quality of life you have while you're here.
It's beautiful. Life is worth living. And we can't fully live it if we don't feel well. So I hope that this video here today encourages you that wellness is the best wealth investment you can ever make.
Absolutely.
It is better than any 401k. If you invest for 30 years in your 401k and did not invest in your health, you may never see it.
Yeah.
We can't take the money to where we go. And so I am advocating for you to prepare, not a doom and gloom thing here,
Yep.
but when we prepare, I like to say that my husband set me up for success. He set things in place so that if such a day happened, which we never thought would, that I would be okay. And even in that, I have still walked through all of this. And grieving together makes everything better. The community part of this is so critical to our morale, to our will to want to our probability of change actually sticking. And when we do things with our peers and you see that they have lost 20 pounds and they look good and there's a bounce in their step and they're like, man, if they can do it, so can I.
Absolutely.
And then there's this connectivity that happens. And then the next thing you know, we're doing things that we haven't done in 15 years because we made a change, y'all. We can reverse some of this stuff. And so it's possible. It is more than possible. And with God, all things are possible.
Absolutely.
Literally, all things are possible. And the things that I have done over the last 8 years, if you would have told me, I would have said absolutely not. Not possible.
He's got a bigger plan for us.
Not possible. So thank you again, and stay tuned next week with more wellness stories right here in the city of Franklin. Bye.
God bless you.